Welcome to Just a Thought, a podcast for misfits who've turned self-reflection into a lifestyle. Around here, we get into the messy stuff, mental health, connection, and the daily chaos of being a human. It's kind of like therapy, but with some sarcasm and fewer co-pays. I'm your host, Purple Energy, and every week we'll obsess over one subject we know best, ourselves. Because if you're going to spiral, why not make it about yourself? This is Just a Thought.
If you ever lost a job and find yourself spiraling into self-blame, have you ever walked away from a toxic relationship only to still carry the voice of someone who always made you feel not enough? This episode is for you. Today, we're diving deep into something so many people experience, myself included, but few people talk about out loud. The shame we carry when life doesn't go as planned, and how we can begin to let shame go. You were not broken. You were not to blame. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to start believing in yourself once again. Shame says you did something wrong. Shame says you are wrong. Shame says you did this and therefore you are not worthy. You are not enough. It's like a melody that don't leave and continues to replay on repeat as if somehow you have given it authority to run amok in your mind. Right now, we are living in a world where things are going to shit, pretty much. And every time we muster up the faith to believe that this year is going to be better, we are met with some level of opposition. Some war that we did not ask for comes knocking at our doorsteps. That could be a loss of a loved one. That could be loss of a job. That could be a relationship where you're in physical, mental, or emotional abuse. That could be where you have lost a child and parts of you is just like, will I ever get through this moment? Shame has a way of creeping in on us. Some of it was learned through your childhood and how others, like your family, perceived you. Sometimes it's how your friends perceived you. And sometimes shame just comes out of nowhere. It wasn't learned. It wasn't something that you were taught. It just pops up, boop, like an uninvited guest that has made themselves a plate at your dinner table. While it's sitting down and making itself comfortable, thoughts start to go through your mind as, am I good enough? What's wrong with me? I should have seen this coming. It's my fault. Things always go wrong for me, and it becomes a manuscript of words that are chiseled just for your unique situation. You really don't need this voice in a bad moment, right? You need to be encouraged and lifted up, but somehow in this moment of vulnerability, this voice has a way of making you feel like your effort, who you are, isn't enough. And you question your identity. You question your worth. You question if you're even worthy of love. I remember as a child, and again, this is not to place blame on anyone, this is just my experience. My grandmother had a very critical tongue for me, honey. Okay? Everything I did, said, was just, it felt never good enough for her, at least through the lens of my inner child. It seemed like I can watch my cousins, they were boys, by the way. No matter what they did, they would be celebrated, they would be rewarded, and it was a pat on the back. But if I mimicked the very same things that they did or said what they said, it was, don't do that. You're a girl. Don't do this. You're supposed to be this way. Young ladies act this way. And so that's where it first started. As a child, you feel like something is wrong with you. Like, why can't you get it right? Why can't you be like your brother or your sister or your cousin who does all these wonderful things? You start to internalize that it is you. Therefore, you shrink. You fade into the background because some parts of you feel as though you're not worthy of this person's affection. I remember one night, like, you know, when you greet your parents to go to bed, my cousins would greet my grandmother going to bed and they would kiss her. And on her lips, I watched her do it with other kids, so I thought it was okay for me to do it. One day, I kissed her on her lips and said goodnight. This woman proceeded to chew me out. In my mind, I'm thinking, well, what did I do wrong? I just watched everybody else do it. But somehow, when I do it, it's now the wrong thing. I internalized that I was just this outsider amongst them that Everything I did was wrong. Everything I said, my very existence was just the wrong thing. I did my best to stay out of her way because I was just like, this woman, nothing I can do is going to make her satisfied. I just remember like, oh my God, I cannot wait till my mother come get me. I cannot wait till my mother come get me. I would say that all the time. Like, I cannot wait till my mother come get me because it was just like, I just didn't feel like I was in the right space or place to just be myself. And so that was the first time that shame came to me. It wasn't nothing that I did. It wasn't nothing that I said. It was a projection from someone else. The second time I have felt shame was in my adulthood. I was in a 9-year relationship with someone. And when I say this man would chew me out in a way that I've never seen it before, but I did understand that he had childhood trauma. So I try to like rationalize with him. Again, that is the empath for me. And I remember the first time I got fired from a job. Now, meanwhile, it was nothing that I did personally wrong. I got fired for speaking up. And I remember telling him I had got fired. And he was like, why couldn't you just sit there and be quiet? Why did you have to go in there acting like that you are the owner? Why couldn't you just turn down your personality? You are too much. And I sat back and I was like, I'm too much? It was like I was being slapped in the face. And instead of saying something to him in that moment, I had to sit back and process my thoughts. So the next day, I explained to him, like, look, this happened. It was beyond my control. Clearly, I wasn't let go for my performance. Therefore, there was nothing I can do. Why would you feel the need to blame me for something that wasn't within my control? And he began to give his reasons of why. And I said to him, but I don't talk to you like that. So why would you feel as though it's okay to talk to me? And he was like, well, it was just you being you where you just want your way. And in that moment, you wanted your way. And when you don't get your way, you tend to act out. I'm looking at him like he's crazy because I'm like, act out? I'm an adult. What is going on? I have to have a say. If someone is doing something to me that I don't like, I don't care that this is a fucking job. It's money. Money comes and goes. So that doesn't give this person the right to speak down to me and think that they have some kind of level of authority over me, the human being, because I'm in a position. Absolutely not. And so that was the second time I experienced shame. Then one day he blamed me one too many times. Because legit, every job that I got fired from was never because I did anything wrong, performance-wise. It was because of me, what I said, what I stood for. If I didn't crack up at a joke, if I didn't come in there and stroke their ego, if I didn't play the corporate game, they was going to prove me that I should yield. So I learned to accept that this is who I am and I'm not going to yield. He did not accept that. He made me feel like I was fucking shit. And one day, I had enough because I realized he was not only shaming me when I had lost a job, he was shaming me even in our relationship. If his friends didn't like something that I said, he would try to scold me. If his mother didn't like something that I did, he would scold me. One day we were in Brooklyn and we went to his friend's house. And this was my first time meeting this guy. He was a fucking narcissist and a misogynistic asshole. And all the women were cracking up laughing at his jokes. And I just thought the shit was offensive. And everybody's like, well, no, that's just how he is. And you just get used to it. And I'm looking at them like, this is how you let this man talk to you? Okay. So we're playing charades. And I made a joke saying I don't watch white people shows or something like that. And when I tell you the whole room just stopped, you would have thought I said something that was wrong completely. Like I killed somebody. That's how silent it got. And I was like, guys, ha ha ha, a joke. And everybody was like, that's not funny. I was like, but this man walking around here talking about people grabbing pussies, that's funny? Okay. So I decided I was no longer going to play. And I set to the side. So the person I was with was like, hey, is everything okay? And I was like, yeah, everything's fine. Let's not make a scene. Like, I'm good. I was like, okay. We proceeded with the night as usual. When we get out the house, he was like, I cannot believe you fucking embarrassed me like that. I was like, excuse me? He was like, why couldn't you just go in there and have a good time? You had to go in there and do that shit that you do. And I was like, do what? Speak up? Do what? Call out an offense when I know that is wrong? I said, what? You want to be like them and just laugh at his jokes that was very offensive, might I add, towards women? It's his house. You don't get to have a say. And I lost it. Like every woman has this moment in their life where they just had enough. I was at my enough moment. And I was trying so hard, like, to choose my words, to be respectful of his feelings. I was trying all the things, literally trying them in my best. And the more and more this man talked, the more and more the fire in me, it was like my divine feminine energy was like, chick, eat his ass. It was like, it's go time, okay? And I proceeded to say, and this is my first time in my life that I said to someone, I fucking hate you. I never even thought I could have hate. Like me, like I get hate is like a real thing, but just me, the individual, I was really shocked that I can get there because I have built up an endurance of people, of love and understanding that acceptance is just as they are. But in that moment, it was so much rage in me. I could have, meanwhile, this man was like 320. I'm a buck 25. And I was ready to fight this man. So he proceeded to grab me. And I was like, don't do that. Please don't touch me at this moment because I feel like in this moment, it might be a threat. So just do not try to so-called calm me down by touching me. Just get me home. It's because I have to calm down. And I went home by myself that night. I went home by myself and I couldn't believe that this person who I have helped, I loved, I honored, I respected, I cared for, would have done anything for. Hell, I have. I couldn't believe that this man was talking to me like I wasn't his equal, like I wasn't his better half, like I wasn't his rock, like I wasn't his queen, like I wasn't the one who nurtured him when his mother talked down to him, like I wasn't his protector when people said shit to him. I just couldn't believe this. I defended him, whether it be his family or mine. I defended him, whether it be his friends or mine. And for this man to make me feel like me being myself wasn't enough, I couldn't survive that. There was no way I could survive this relationship anymore past the 9 years that I've given this person. And I had to sit with that. I had to sit with that. And so the relationship ended, you know? And when that relationship ended, it was like his spirit of shame followed me, like followed me. I know that we have turned positivity into toxic positivity, but I'm going to take ownership of that word and saying that it's not toxic positivity, but it is optimism. In order to be optimistic, you must see reality. That means you must see things as they are, good and bad, and still say, I'm going to make a choice to focus on the good. And that's always been me. I've always been optimistic. So when this voice of shame came to me, I was like, where is this coming from? Like, I would lose a job and I would scold myself. Like, why couldn't you do this? Why couldn't you do that? I was scolding myself. And that was never my language towards myself. And I'm like, okay, next time you're going to do this. Next time you're going to do that. And so I proceeded to go on interviews and all these different things. And I felt myself changing in a way that wasn't comfortable. One minute I would wear a wig, one minute I would comb my natural hair. If somebody said I looked too young, I would put on makeup. Like based on the reactions in the interviews, I would change my DNA on the outside. I would go in there and give them to the next interview. I would give everything that the person said was wrong, I would give to the next one. And so on and so forth. And I was going from interview after interview after interview. And every time I didn't get, I didn't land a job, I was just so critical towards myself, very critical. And I'm like, you got to mirror them. You have to do this. You have to do that. Like, I legit was just changing myself to the point where it's like I started to not like myself. And that was unnatural for me. Like, I didn't feel comfortable in my own body because of this experience. And shame has a way of doing that. It has a way of stripping you of your identity, of who you really are. You're worthy outside of objects and things. You are worthy outside of a job title and an accolade. You are worthy outside of having children and a husband. You are worthy if you do not have a house and you have an apartment. You are worthy if you are on food stamps or not. It doesn't matter. You still are worthy. But when you have people who mean to harm you, they meant to harm you intentionally. And that is real. And there is no level of optimism that can change that. You just have to accept it and move on. And when I got out of that relationship, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. It was like the divine himself came and was like, oof, baby, you let that thing go. Let me restore you and give you peace. Okay? I had to be restored from that. I had to be restored from the emptiness that I felt. I had to be restored from the way I was thinking and the way I was seeing the world. Like, I understand that the world is going to change. That's evolution. That's natural. We evolve with life, but I'm not supposed to be declining and withering away like the leaves do when autumn comes. And that what was happening to me at the time. I was withering away, and no one can see it past my smile on my face, my demeanor. My hair wasn't disheveled. And so they thought I was fine, but it was over me. And I questioned everything about myself. I had to spend time unlearning the voice of another. This process was not easy. I had to first realize that it didn't start with him. It grew with him. It started with my grandmother. And I had to go back to my inner child. And I had to hold her and I had to love her. And I had to apologize to her, not in the voice of my grandmother, but in my voice, so that she can know that we were safe and that we were not the things that people saw us. We were not as people saw us. I had to love her. I had to allow her to cry. I had to allow her to be pissed off because fuck, what did I do if that was so wrong that needed that kind of reprimand? And once she felt strong enough and she was back in her lovable state that she normally is in, we was like, okay, now let's tackle this motherfucker. Okay? And I think that took more time because children get over things very quickly. And your inner child will get over it when you give her space to cry or him space to cry. But the adult version of you is ready for war. I'm not sure about you, but I am a warrior. Legit, it's in my blood. Hell, it's probably in my DNA. And the adult version of me wanted to protect me at all costs. And so if I was on an interview, if I was among friends, you name it, if somebody said one thing against my character that did not sit well with me, well, baby mother roared. And she roared very loudly. Not loudly in a way where I'm screaming at a person, but a way with the words where I will scold you and you wouldn't even want to do that bullshit to me ever again. I will put you in your place. So the lovable, optimistic, hopeful, purple energy had to be put to the side, okay? And the phoenix in me had to rise to get my point across. Because there's something in the silence that chokes you and chokes your spirit when you do not speak, when people are ridiculing you, ostracizing you, and mocking you. It does something to you internally that I just really can't explain. There's a part of you that wants to rise up against this person or thing to protect yourself at all costs. And I remember being on an interview and this person said, well, you talk very well. Why did they say that? And then the person proceeded to try to pinpoint me talking well to based on the location of where I grew up. And oh God, Lord be with me. I had to chew this person out. Politely, but I chewed them out with my words. Because there is no way that you can say that I talk politely, I talk so eloquent, due to me living in a certain zip code. That is not true. And I had to pinpoint this person's ignorance. And you know what? I didn't even care that I didn't get the job. I just thought it was rude that this person thought that they can talk to me like that in an interview and thought that I was going to be okay with it. So when I was taking the train back home, I realized that the warrior in me needed to stop defending foolishness because that was their level of ignorance and that was their level of shame. Hurt people hurt people. Just like that person that was on an interview that was talking down to me and being racist, might I add, probably was talked down to as a child and lived in an environment where racism was okay. So I couldn't combat foolishness with foolishness. It just was not going to work. So I had to find myself again in the midst of this because I was like, this is not well. I felt me changing and I didn't like it. I didn't like that I wasn't able to be me, that I had to be who they wanted me to be to get through this moment. And I had to ask myself, what's the money and whatever it is I'm trying to do? Is it worth it if I have to lose myself to get this? Long time ago, didn't realize it, but I chose myself over the money. And I had to find my way back to that, even in this moment. And I had to make sure that shame wasn't being the thing that spoke loudest to me, that it caused me to speak out of turn in the midst of ignorance. Because two wrongs does not make it right. And so I began to do my healing work, my shadow work for the adult version of me. And I had to remind myself that every time that I can hear his voice telling me that I did something wrong, I had to remind myself, these are all the great things that you have done. I had to keep reminding myself of how good I actually am, not as I was, as I am today, in this moment. Not the accolades from before, but the accolades in the moment that I was dating this person, in the moment, the accolades that I have attained outside of him. Because every accolade that I made, whether with him or without him, it wasn't based on him. It was based on my effort. It wasn't based on him clapping for me. It was based on me clapping for me. It wasn't based off him being agreeable. It was based off me being agreeable with myself. It was not based off of him saying, I am proud of you. It was based off of me saying, I'm proud of me. Because that baby never said, correction, that man never said, I'm proud of you. That man never was in agreement with me. That man never made me feel as though what I wanted to do was exciting and fun. He was always trying to say, well, wait a minute, you're dreaming too big. You need to calm down and go this way. So I had to remind myself, baby, you're giving yourself freedom to just be all the way you. And if it's crazy, well, that's okay. That's how you get down. And so that's how I was able to get out of that shame. It took a while. It really did. It took me a while. I want to say like maybe a year, maybe less. I cannot really remember, but I know it took more than a month. I do know that. I had to sit down with myself and release him. And I had to keep releasing him too. That's the funny part. Like when I was going into my shadow work, I had to keep releasing him because every time I felt like, okay, his energy is gone, I was sitting stillness and I would feel the fire rising up inside of me. And I'm like, okay, this man is back. So it wasn't like I had went in with a time frame in mind, like I'm going to be over him in 6 months. I didn't do that. Like when I'm in my healing phase, when I'm in my overcoming phase, I don't really give myself a set time. I just allow it to unfold as it needs to because some things may take me 30 days, some days may take me 10 minutes, some things may take me longer than that. Just the inner knowing that you know when you're over it. And I knew, I was like, oh, I'm over it. And I was listening to scriptures and sermons, and I'm like, I'm over it. Yes, Lord. Then next day I would wake up and somebody would do something and it would be like, oh, damn, you got triggered. Okay, well, I got to start over again. Okay, that's fine. I was okay with starting over again. And to those of you that are listening, be okay with starting over again because you're not starting at the beginning. You are starting right where you left off at. There's a mark at the moment that you got triggered and you're starting from there. And so give yourself permission to be triggered a few times and have to start over again. And, that's just the process. It literally is just the process. And I was okay with that. And I didn't have anybody telling me like, give yourself this or that. I was doing this all by myself and just with the faith that the divine in me is going to lead me where I needed to be. And I needed this man. I needed the experience of my grandmother. I needed those experiences, shame, even on the interview. I needed those moments to be released from me so I can get back to myself. No one is coming to save me. The only person that's going to come save me, honey, is me. So I ain't had no time to play. And I had no moments to sit here and cry and be like, I have to start over. I'm like, no, this is the process. This is what you're going to have to do. And I'm going to love you through it. And so I'm just grateful to myself for getting through that. Because when I tell you trying to release somebody else's spirit off of you is work and it's hard, oh baby, that thing it take time. It do. Because the divine in you is already knows who you are and is trying to connect you with that, and you're just stuck with the same loop of a cycle from this person and trying to untether yourself from this thing. So be patient with yourself, love on yourself, put I am affirmation cards, put I'm proud of you around the house. Say I love you today when you get up. Let that be the first thing you say. Like, I love you. Thank you for getting up. Thank you for breathing. Thank you for being in this body. Thank you for being smart. Thank you for handling tough moments. Thank you for continuing to go on those interviews. I know it is hard out there. Thank you for still putting in those resumes even when you don't feel like doing it. Thank you for still showing up to the interview when you want to telling people to fuck off, okay? Because they're trying to lowball you. Thank you for getting out of that relationship. Thank you for loving yourself enough to say, this is not enough and I'm done with this. And I will love you from a distance. Thank you for no longer being in a relationship. Girl, I love you. Boy, I love you. We ride together. Thank you for wrangling these children and being the best spouse that you know how to be. Wake up thanking yourself, to encourage yourself, to inspire yourself, most importantly, to acknowledge you. So I leave you with this affirmation. I am not a failure. I am someone who has survived more than most, but I'm still here.